this meeting of Te Maru o Kaituna River Authority Forum. I remind you all that the meeting has been video recorded and the recording will be made available on the Bay of Plenty Regional Council's website following the meeting. I tēnei wā, ka tukuna te rākei kia koe haimona hei karakia. Tēnā koe.
A kātea ki kirunga. Wenora e tu whakaiti tēnei ki mui a koutou aku rangatira. Te matua e Maru e Dean, e koutou mā te kauni hira. Wenora ngā kaitiaki, ngā mana whenua o te awa e tere nei. E mihi ana, e mihi ana, e mihi ana. Wenora tukuna ngā whakaaro ki te wāhingaro. Rātou ki a rātou. Wenora ngā mate o te wā. Haere, haere. Te anko e Alan. Takoto tirahana. Ki wainganu i a tātou o ngā tirangi wiwihi. Haere, haere, haere atura. Honora tukuna anō ki ngā whakaaro. Ki ngā pai maunga e haka maru nei a tātou. I te kai mai. Pāmoa o tawa. O tāne wainuku, a rangiuru, orongara, ngā hiringa kōrero o rātou mā. Ka pāheke nei ki ngā rekereke o ngā maunga, ki te awa e kōrero tēnei e tātou, e Kaituna, te wai ora, te wai te whakakaha nei a tātou. Wenora, te moana taurikura o tauranga, tukuna ngā whakaaro kia koe. Wenora, me timata te karakia, I rungi te rangi Māori. Unuhia, ko te pau mua, ko te pau roto, ko te pau whakauru hanga atu ki te tonga. Ko te manuhairangi he tō ai karo kōkiri ki te mate, hoki ki te ora. Ki mihia. Wano, hara mai te toki, haumi e, hui e, tāi ki e. Ora kare.
Tēnā rawa atu koe haimona. Okay, apologies received from Councillor Hemi Rolliston, TCC. Councillor Andy Witches from Western Bay. Thank you. Any further apologies? Okay, can I have a mover and a seconder for apologies, please? Nikki moves. Steve, second. Okay, public forum, Raymond Beman at Ngāti Whakaue, Y676, o Ngā Toro Estuary claim. Tēnā koe. If you just press the button, green.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for making my subcom available for me. Okay. So I'm the claimant for Y676 or Ngā Toro, Makatu Estuary, and I wanted to attend today to briefly update you on the claim. From my perspective, it's not an official perspective. It hasn't come from Committee Nui. I lodged the claim when Western Bay District Council was going to widen the beach road and provide, they were going to take away the beach and make parking there. And there would be no beach left. And Annette Sykes told me to put in a claim. I didn't know how to do it anyway. Y676 intention was to stop further desecration of the estuary and restore the river flow through the estuary. And Auntie Pia had said we weren't to take any compensation, just want the river back through the estuary. So Y676 was in the name of Ngāti Whakaue and Ngāti Pākehā, because when I was growing up, and even around the time of the claim, they were the only two iwi that we thought was in Makatu, hence just the two. And at this stage, I'm not sure where the Pākehā part of the claim sits. I note that there are two appendices to the Pumatanga settlement, and Y676 is on the Appendix 2 list. So at no stage did anyone from Rotorua come and ask me about attaching Y676 anywhere. I had thought at the time that if you didn't settle, you went to the back of the queue, which was okay with me. So I recently asked Pumotanga to let me deal with Y676 should the government change the RMA. You know how there's talk about that. And they passed that to the Pikau Trust, and who agreed. Anyway, in Ngāti Whakaue's case, there was a lull due to breakdown in negotiations with the Crown over treaty settlements generally. And then Ngāti Whakaue, through its mandated committee nui, have restarted the process. So in anticipation of the Whakaue treaty settlements, I'm establishing a management committee to o ngā toro, and these are my reasons, not least of is my age. I want to hit the ground running for the estuary, part of the settlement. And as far as I'm concerned, there's no need to wait for the Crown's approval. I want to pass knowledge on to the next generation so that they're ready to take over. And also the estuary needs attention now. And I did want to draw a distinction between Te Maru o Kaituna and the Y676. And our reason is that when we've gone to apply for funding and it's not available because it's been said to have been included in this committee's mandate, something like that, you know what I mean? So they're saying that it would be like I was applying for 2 bites of the same cherry. So, and the other reason I want is to promote our makatu kaitiakitanga. So my focus is on kaitiakitanga. I've not given any thought to the synchronisation of the claim with Te Maru o Kaituna co-governance. It's co-governance, I think, is probably Committee Nui's job. So at this stage, I've developed a training plan and I've selected 4 younger people already, and I'll probably invite a couple more people. I intend applying to Whakaue existing funding to deliver the program. So, Mr. Chairman, it's just a courtesy call. I'd rather you hear it from me instead of through the grapevine about what I'm doing. So, koina.
Nā koe Ryan, and thank you for your update and attendance here today. Nā mihi nui kia koe.
Can I make a comment in response?
Cool.
There are several in the coastline. There has been several settlements. Maru o Kaituna is one of them. The committee nui, in which I'm a member of, and I'm always having arguments with them, that there's a difference between the coastal and Ngāti Whakaue ki runga, Ngāti Whakaue ki te tai, the coastal area. Ngāti Whakaue ki tai deals with the Western Bay, Tauranga City Council and the Regional Council. And there's also settlements. These are all acts of decree that we have to run in harmony with. Ngāti Whakaue in Rotorua, put it that way, are far removed from the issues here. Because if we find a common relationship between each one of the claimants that it's here at the moment, like the Maru o Kaituna and the settlement of, say, Ngāti Mākino and all that, we could collaborate and have an influence, not only on the regional economy, but also the national economy. Port of Tauranga is the gateway to the world. The Eastern Arterial is the gateway to the regional economy, like forest, timber, and all that. So we're sitting in a very important place right here where we are on the access to the coastline. And so we have an important part of looking after our social, cultural, environmental here between us. And in that way, we could have some influence in terms of resources from national policy, from government, from GST, and you name it. We would be able to do that. It's not about steam. It's about the coast, protecting of the coastline. I just wanted to add that in terms of support of Raywin's submission.
Tēnā koe, Maru. Okay, moving on, items not on the agenda, there are none. Order of business, there are no changes to the order of business. Declaration of conflicts of interest, any declarations of interest? Oh, thank you. Okay, Te Maru o Kaituna River Authority minutes from the 14th of March. Are there any corrections to the minutes? Alright, can I have a mover and a seconder, please, for the minutes? Councillor Nees. Second. Nikki, second there. Recommendation that the Maru o Kaituna River Authority confirms the minutes from the 14th of March 25 as a true and correct record. All those in favour say aye. Carried. Okay, following now, we have a presentation, Te Puke Rangiuru Extension Project on Te Karangi A2 lands. No mahara mai, Liz. Kia koe te wā.
Tēnā koe te tiamana, tēnei te mihi mahana ki a koutou katoa e oku rangatira o te aroa waka. Tēnā koutou, e rau rangatira mā tēnā koutou katoa. Ko wai ahau, ko Liz Tiamo ahau, he uri ahau o Tapuika o Waitaha o Tūhaurangi ki o Tukawa. I'm a trustee on Te Karangi A2 Trust and Otukawa Whenua LP Dairy Farm. I'm here with my colleague, co-trustee John Fennick today to talk about our aspirations and our vision for that land. We thank you for your time to present our project. Kia ora. We call it the Te Puke, and apologies up front, it will be hard to read on the screen, but you will all get the papers. The Te Puke Rangiuru Extension Project, just to seat it in its location in between Te Puke, the Kaituna River, and the Rangiuru Business Park. Our vision, which is a work in progress, which we have been talking to our people about for a couple of years now. It currently operates as a 160 hectare farm. Most of the land is owned by Te Karangi A2 Trust, and there are 14 smaller Pukainga Taru Te Karangi land trusts, which bought into the vision of that farm 12 years ago. But our vision going forward is very much about whānau living and thriving on their ancestral whenua. And what that means to us is for whānau, the shareholders and beneficiaries of that land for generations to come. Living means affordable housing in well thought out communities. Thriving on the land means, and this is what our people tell us, that housing is important to us and jobs are important to them, but also the creation of an economic base in the region and over the land to lift the wealth and the health of our people and the landowners there. And so that likely we're exploring highest and best use options for the land. It's likely mixed use. We are exploring energy, in particular solar. John will speak to that. He is our solar guru. Light industrial, commercial and residential as some of the options we're thinking about. Living and thriving on our ancestral whenua is really important to our people, the landowners. So Te Karangi and Pukainga Taru lands. And for our whenua, the importance of the whenua and the awa cannot be understated. We want communities that reflect our story, our identity and our whakapapa. So you'll be familiar with the location if we compare it to the so-called Golden Triangle of Auckland, Hamilton and Tauranga. Our Golden Triangle in the Bay, in the Eastern Bay, is really that connection to Tauranga Port, down to Rotorua, across to Kawerau, where all the industry, a lot of the industry is, out to Whakatane, which gateway to Eastern Bay or Portuguese in the Eastern Bay, and then back up to Te Puke and Papamoa. And this land sits right at the nexus of that. So this is our Golden Triangle, if you like. The land itself, you'll see the different colour shades of green there, indicating the tenure of the land. Right next to it, to the right, is Rangiuru Business Park. So it is well located for the 4,000 jobs which Rangiuru Business Park is going to make. Well located to the Tell, well located to Te Puke wastewater, and for the expansion of Te Puke. And really the expansion in the region, the best place for that is going east, because we are constrained in this region by going out the other sides of it. So we want to be part of that, and we want our landowners, our people to lead the development on their land. And the things that are most important to us, which our people talk about at Hui, is the protection of the awa and the ability to engage and live with the awa like our tupuna used to do. So our people will still throw in the rubber tires and float down that river in the summer and get off at their house. We want to see the tuna brought back, and we want to live the way our old people did. Just looking at those land blocks at the 160 hectare outline there, the dark grey Māori land blocks, Māori freehold land blocks. There are two general title land blocks just at the top of the picture in the bottom, and Te Kārangi A2, the big block in the middle, owns both the general title and the big block in the middle, so control of about 112 hectares of the 160 of the farm. And then we brought in our whanaunga on the smaller blocks, some of them landlocked, to be part of the farm and now to be part of these discussions. But their aspirations will be up to them. We talked to our people about what's important to them, and under the PO of social, of environmental, of cultural, and of having an economic base. And there's a lot of potential in all of that. Number one, they talk to us about wanting housing. They talk to us about the environmental, looking after the taiao, being good to kaitiaki, and preservation of the river. Cultural, being able to live out our cultural protocols, also very important. This land is very closely located to Tūharangi ki Otukawa marae and all our other tapuka marae, as well as the other marae around this table. Our values and drivers, we think, are very well aligned to Te Maru o Kaituna in terms of whanaungatanga, kaitiakitanga, kotahitanga, education and mātauranga Māori, creation of spaces that are not only beautiful but have our cultural intent deep in the design, the protection of our river, and putting good infrastructure in there. Some, I guess, projects that we look to and say what could be possible on our land. Projects like Ruakura Super Hub for Waikato Tainui. So that's a 600 hectare project, been going for 30 years now. But they would say they took their land from the value of $5 per metre to $500 per metre through that development process. So what could we learn from that project, given that our land is based in the Eastern Bay Golden Triangle? Mangatawa, if you know it, on Truman Lane, main freight and everybody lined up down there, leasehold land to Mangatawa Incorporation just below their housing and what have you, a huge rent roll for not much effort for them to have developed that. So what is in the best interest of the regional plans, the smart growth plans, how can we fit into that? Wairakei, all the development obviously in the Wairakei growth area, how do we get in step and lockstep with that, what's going on there? Now, Pōtiki provides a great example for us in terms of their housing projects, both social, affordable and market, and how you can do that all together and fund it. Te Papatipu Innovation Park, Scion campus over in Rotorua, has big aspirations and expansion plans, development plans there. And probably one of the best developments in terms of affordable housing, Ngāti Whakauwe's Manua Gardens, now onto their third stage in Rotorua. So we look to those. We also think and talk to our people about whatever we do, we should be the pinnacle, the panakiritanga of cultural and sustainable design, so that it is a hallmark project for this region. The importance of the whenua to us, the wai, the awa, energy, can we be an energy provider? What does it mean for the health and happiness of our people? What does it mean in the materials we use in design? What does it mean for the beauty of the place, particularly given a location next to the awa? I'll leave John to talk about solar, but for one of the fastest growing towns in the country, and energy deficient now, more likely to be in the future, what is the potential? There's a lot of potential there to be a solar or an energy provider. And we think there's a lot of alignment with Te Maru o Kaituna and Te Tini o Te Tuna. So we commend you on that document, but the alignment we see is with Te Tini a Tuna, the whakapapa and mauri of the awa, the mana of the wai, integration of our cultural values. Secondly, protection, environmental protection commitments, whether that's riparian or buffer zones, biodiversity or water quality. We believe in kaitiakitanga and co-governance, mana whenua involvement, monitoring and mātauranga Māori engagement, and staying true to our cultural protocols. A lot of our land is low-lying, so climate resilience and long-term stewardship is important. The climate adaptation, energy, long-term kaitiakitanga, and then the balance between economic and social, how you get that right, jobs with values, education and engagement, access and connectivity. So that I'll pass over to John, who's going to talk about our solar ideas.
Morena koutou. Morena kia mana. I also wish to acknowledge my kaumātua, Matua Maru. We whakapapa back into a number of iwi in Te Arawa. But this is a great opportunity, and thank you again for your time. I'll start off, give you my pepe heart first. Ko George whene toku ingo, ko whakapanga kau e tuana. Ko te kaituna e rere ana. Ko nā kauhui katoa o Te Arawa. O ku karangaranga iwi o Ngāti Whakauwe, Ngāti Pikiao. Ngāti Rangi Taure, Ngāti Tapuika. Nā ka haere me Ngāti Parau e aitanga a mahaki. Tēnā koutou katoa. So this morning, and it was quite early this morning, I managed to put a very short slide presentation together for this morning. And it's interesting that my presentation follows Liz's, because in some respects, the alignment of our visions interesting, because I think probably this one will give rise to Liz's visions going forward. This one is going to be able to develop the commercial capital that is required to do what Liz is also envisaging, and I have full support for that too. Next slide. So you know where we are on Liz's presentation too. We're close to everything that is going to be showing growth potential in the next 25 years. We're ring-fenced by copious general title land, which at some point we as a group of Maru will have the capital to buy some of that general title land, and also expand our visions in terms of supporting our people in their vision of owning their own lands. It's not going to be cheap, but the reality is too, And what we have in mind, it also produces a quantum of capital that, yeah, is very worth considering. Current landscape looks like this. It's all dairy flatland, prone to flooding. And this year has had a few problems, but free draining soils, which is good, it drains away very quickly. But we are looking at issues around how we mitigate stormwater in 100-year events. Again, our platform is made up of about 160 hectares, ranging in block sizes from 0.6 of a hectare to 60 hectares. 60 hectares being the larger one, described as Te Karangi A2. So when I looked at this last night, I thought, now, we could keep dairy farming on that land forever and ever and ever and ever. That's not going to really help our people, nor is it going to help the environment. And I know this. I'm a dairy farmer, and I'm a corporate dairy farmer back in Rotorua. I manage 2 farms with total stock occupancy of 1,800 cows and covering over 700 hectares. And we're in the Rotorua catchment. And so we've come under recent nitrogen benchmarking limitations, and for all the best reasons. I fully support them and have done right from the outgo. My production hasn't ceased because we've brought in technology, we've improved water quality, and we very much are a beneficiary of the regional councils, fencing and kaitiaki grants. It's on the record, I think, here that Waringa Corporation benefited to the tune of 485,000 a few years ago on a multiple staged catchment fencing and planting program. And so the same controls will start encroaching into our lowland dairy farming and pastoral areas. The area is not suitable for horticulture, even though we've got a kiwi fruit orchard adjacent to our farm. It's not doing too good. Geotechnical conditions are not really suitable for large-scale papakainga, but we do have high ground where housing can take place. And therefore, the only commercial development remain options for landowners. And so with every kickback that we get, there's also an opportunity. And obviously, we're looking at our alignment with in close proximity to Rangiru Light Industrial Park. That commercial alignment with goals of the Puke Rangiru Extension Project. There's also commercial alignment with the environmental kaupapa of Te Maru o Kaituna. And commercial alignments with Ngāti Tapuika Iwi Authority aspirations as well. And so we think that there's across the board support for a project of this size. If we can get it off the ground and have it producing, it will secure the needs of Te Karangi and Pukanga-Taru block landowners and beneficiaries into sustainable relief in perpetuity. The net, the capacity for a farm of this size is rather extraordinary. And a number of my whanaunga are already branching out in this area and other parts of the country. justifications. I'm not sure if you can read it that too well. Talk to it a little bit. Maybe it's my eyesight. There is sufficient sustainable land for a utility scale solar farm utilising current full connection capacity. At the moment, overall proximity to underground 33 kVA network that runs along the length of Par Road. The sufficient connection capacity currently exists on the PowerCo network. Consider a viable utility scale generation development to up and over 100 megawatts. This is what the site can cater for. There are no site conditions existing that the solar platform of this size and capacity could not make it viable. Local network load is increasing. It's growing. Our area is becoming more populous, and therefore local generation will offset future load demand. And we don't have at the moment enough power to supply that load demand. So we're also looking to potentially collaborate with PowerCo on connection options, and that also means upgrading the Te Matai Road substation, which you're familiar with. Sorry about the size of these slides here. The first one on the left is a 80 megawatt photovoltaic platform. It doesn't look much different than the one in the middle, except that it's the way the voltaic panels are arrayed and how they're positioned. So there's a difference there of 40 megawatts just by repositioning the panels in a certain direction. And then there's a complete Rolls-Royce option, 168 megawatts, covering the whole of the Te Kārangi A2 general lands and Pūkainga-Taru blocks. And you'll see with the close proximity to Quayside Holdings, Rangiu Industrial Park. And we've had conversations and discussions with Lyndon's team prior to meeting with you here today. Our next steps is to identify target energy off-taker and sell rate of produced energy. We need that almost in a contractual form. But as one develops these generation capacity, then you're dealing with the big boys in the industry, and they certainly don't like you moving in. So we're going to have to be very gentle, and we may have to upsize in stages. However, this is an opportunity where I think there are going to be many beneficial aspects and beneficiaries that will be part of this. We need obviously a more detailed technical evaluation. Financial feasibility and power studies with detailed connection requirements and viability. Those are all based with serious consultancy and obviously serious funding required to generate that. And believe it or not, there's no shortage of those people out there. So we're now moving in that area of potential stakeholder engagement. And of course, part of that is the political interfacing that's going to be required in local government as well as central government. That's about the end of my presentation. If there are any questions, any pātai?
Tēnā kōrua. Any questions?
Yeah. Two things. Avoiding foreign ownership and collaboration. I think that collaboration, many of our, if it's acceptable, many of our land trusts could have a part in both projects to collaborate to provide the advanced resources that will quicken the projects themselves. So collaboration is a big part of it. In fact, I can tell you right now, it's only two of us can decide on throwing $1 million in tomorrow. That's how confident with the project, with those projects. That's collaboration coming together. Foreign ownership has to be avoided. Roger Douglas is gone a long time ago, and we don't want to build resources and suddenly it's been taken over by some foreign company. We should be growing our own leadership. You take, for instance, Roredi 15 with all their timber. We could create industries and create our own carpenters, builders, and all that in this whole strategy. It's about growing your own, and we have the opportunity to do that. It's only quite a make.
I tautoko that, Matua. The ideal is being able to develop this with Maori partners involved in this development. Those discussions are happening. Yeah.
Kia koe te taru, e pātai au.
Aroha mai for my lateness. I had a last minute call, so my apologies. I'm very interested in this particular project. You mentioned that you had approached Lyndon Settle from Quayside. How did that go? What was the outcome of that particular meeting? I asked that as a board member of Quayside on behalf of the regional council. So how did that? What was the outcome of that meeting? May I ask?
Yeah, certainly. If I may call you Matua.
Is that you, John?
Yeah.
I can just see the back of your head, mate. Sorry.
Oh, okay. So yes, we did have a meeting with Lyndon and his electrical engineer and his planning engineer. At that particular time, they were moving a substation, a new substation onto the quadrangular, and so yes, he gave us a number of key takeaways, and we also gave him one too, that if we were able to supply the industrial park with green energy, it makes his job extremely easier to attract primary tenants. It has a monetary value as well. Green energy are what people are looking for in terms of when they go and want to rent a building or put up a building. How accessible is it? How close is it? What does it cost? So obviously the relationship that we would want to develop with Quayside Holdings and the Rangiora Business Park and the Industrial Park will be pivotal in the initial development of this solar farm. He's very supportive.
Yeah, no, thanks, John. I would agree. There would be a lot of interest in powering that industrial park with green energy. And so if that were possible, then obviously that's a big tick for future opportunities. So yeah, keep on going. Keep going.
Kia ora.
Councillor McDonald.
Kia ora korua. Ngā mihi kia korua. Love both presentations. To you, Liz, first, with your kōrero. I guess I want to thank you for your presentation, because I think what you've demonstrated for us as the Maru is a confirmation really of the journey that we've taken to date and how it's now being captured by our hapu iwi on the outside and how they're aligning now with the work. So it gives us that level of comfort that we're doing the right thing when we're sitting here. But, you know, I think what we're looking for moving forward is exactly what you're bringing to us, is that how does that convey back to our people to be able to use the tools that we're trying to get within this body for you to move forward, you know, with your aspirations and especially the development of Māori land. So I want to be here for you because seeing the alignment of the values of Te Maru and yours was a highlight for me in your presentation. To you, John, you know, I see huge opportunities in the develop of our lands, not just in the farming, but when you look at our Papakainga developments, we've talked about, well, how do we introduce solar to our Papakainga developments? Haven't seen that yet in Aotearoa. So, you know, all things are coming. So hope you can help in that area too, both you and Liz. If you give examples of your Papakainga of how you're applying the solar. So us developing ours can, you know, follow the lead of what you're doing for all of us. Nō reira, ngā mihi.
Kia koe, Nikki.
Morena tātou, I te tuatahi ka mihi kia haumona mō tō karakia whakatūwhera tēnei hui. Ki te whānau pane e noho ana ki Awahau, tangi hia mātou mō te pāpā Ellen. Tēnā tātou. Kia ora kōrua. Probably just want to echo Councillor McDonald's comments. Just congratulations for coming to us where the government is attempting to set aside our policies around protection of environment. You two are demonstrating how leadership at place and rangatiratanga over our whenua can meet the aspirations of our people. So I just really want to congratulate you, being led by your own thoughts, your own passion, your own aroha for our people in our taiao. So like Councillor McDonald, just the alignment of what you're doing to Te Maru o Kaituna and our plan is stunning. So ngā mihi kia kōrua. I just did have a question about timeframes. How soon? How soon or how slow? Kia ora.
Yeah.
I think on the solar side, there's a lot of interest in major energy projects, and particularly in a town where there's an energy deficit and it's growing fast. So major energy projects will be constrained by transpower and capacity and what have you. But we believe, as John said, that the proximity to Rangiuru Business Park, the fast growth of Te Puke and housing towards it, gives you good options for offtake customers. So we think the energy banking is a real opportunity. On the, you know, a development like Ruakura, less so Mangatawa. Mangatawa happened quite quickly, and even though this government doesn't really, it's pulling money out of housing and taiao and all sorts of places that interest us, there are ways to do this, and we are inspired by what Whakaue is doing on Ōwhata 2B and Ngā Pōtiki in terms of providing housing for our people, because it's going to be by our hands that we create an economic future and we create housing for our people. So we'll go as fast as we can on those things, but developments, mixed use developments, take quite a long time to come to fruition. You know, maybe their fast track legislation will help us one day, but it's the protection of the awa and our culture we're really interested in, no matter what we do on the land. But we're grateful that we have options.
Kia ora. Perhaps one more question, Councillor Daly.
Kia ora koutou, and kia ora Liz and John. It's very interesting to see another proposition come forward for this block of land. I think we saw a presentation about 3 or 4 years ago at Rotorua for the little block in the top left-hand corner there for a cafe and berry farm forward. So good to see that there's still some interest going there. But my question is, your graphic with the blanket covering of solar panels, is there consideration of dual purpose use. So maybe solar panels on roofs of houses, as well as perhaps raised solar panels with grazing underneath, or some other, you know, rather than just single purpose.
Yeah, good question. Thank you, Councillor Grant. I could have actually included it into the slideshow. Many of the ones that are being established down in the Portuguese region now are they're giving the name agrovoltaic farms, and they're running sheep underneath them, as opposed to yelling cattle. But definitely there's an opportunity for sheep there. With any pastoral kind of farming, the nutrient leaching issue then becomes one that needs to be considered as well. But sheep obviously are a lot more farmer friendly, there, put it this way, than cattle are. So yeah, absolutely. In terms of introducing them onto rooftops, and that was something that we actually discussed with Lyndon about if there are any large area tenants that were planning rooftop generation. It doesn't appear to be. They see it as an added cost, and this is where the benefit for us being able to supply green energy to the park is of a commercial benefit to Quayside Holdings, especially, and attracting really good solid tenants, tier 1 level tenants.
Yeah, good luck with a fast track application there.
Yeah, we're going to get some practice.
Yeah. Right, final comment from Councillor McDonald.
I just have one last question, and your answer may help me where I sit, and that we're starting to see a lot of our family, whānau, starting to become more involved in the commercial development side of things, and i.e. the economic. How do you find balancing that economic growth around protecting te taiao? Have you come across it? And I know in your korero, Liz, you mentioned, and I'm assuming that is the order you look at it, and you went social, cultural, social, environment, cultural, economic, and I quite like that you did put economic at the end, but in reality, we do have to look at it economically for us to be able to get the resourcing, I guess, we need for the developments that we're talking about. But I just want to know, have you ever found yourself in a compromised position where you've had to juggle between the economic and your role as kaitiaki of the whenua environment?
I think you juggle those things all the time.
Yep.
One of the particular hallmarks of Māori is the holistic way we look at taiao, our people, our whenua, our life, right? So it just is what it is. And will those projects be as economic as Blue Haven's projects in Papamoa on 150 metre sections? Probably not. But we have a different vision for what it can be. And what I'm seeing in a lot of the Māori developments now is that four-po kaupapa coming, if you like, not only social, not only taiao, but cultural, quite important, our stories, our whakapapa, our tikanga, and then the economic. So the models will be different because I guess we give equal weight or stronger weight to those other po, not just the economic. If you just go economic, you will always be looking for the most commercial return. But what of your people? Where do they live? How healthy are they? What's happening to the awa? Those are all things we care about, and as Māori landowners, you know, those beneficiaries care deeply, as you know.
If I could answer that question too, I said in my introductory that I'm a corporate farmer, but I'm a corporate Maori farmer of Maori farms. And so when we stand up as either chairmen of those boards, we need to be absolutely sure that our shareholders provide us the mandate to go and create those incomes, those profits for further distribution in their benefit. But there's no reduction in that kaupapa of making sure that the land is protected first. I would last one annual general meeting if I didn't present at every AGM the next year's environmental report. So yeah, we are held to account, and there's no reason why. And I'm actually sure that that's why the reason it happens like that. It's intergenerational accountability. I also have the luxury of having still here, having my daughter, who's also an employee of the firm here, and she is now being brought into trustee and incorporation roles. Obviously to take over my roles when I want to step aside and have a bit of a holiday. But what I can say is that environmental plus the well-being of our people is always paramount in the decisions that we make as kaitaki for our lands. And this is no different. Well,
Just one more comment from me around really interested as you move forward to see the practical application of this aspiration, and again that kind of leadership around how you practically apply a sustainability model, how you practically are taking whānau on that journey, and how that practically turns up in outcomes for the awa. So just really excited and interested to see how you go on that journey, and for this group to see that journey as you go, and offer support where we can. Kia ora.
Good, I thank you both for your presentation. Ngā mihi kia kōrua. Okay, moving on. Chairperson's update. I don't have a verbal update. There is a written report. There's one thing I wanted to note. A couple of the years in the third paragraph need amending. Okay, moving on to change of membership. Te Maru o Kaituna River Authority, presented by Charles Harley.
Thank you, Chair, and morena to everyone. And this is just a administrative process, but very, very important. As we've seen this morning, it's important to make sure our membership is up to date. So if I could take the paper, please, as being read through the chair, and look to the recommendations, which I believe are on page 15 of your handouts. The first recommendation would be to receive the report, and just to confirm Haimwana Brown, as the alternate member for Tahuhu or Ta Waka Hemo, and Councillor Hemi Rollston as the alternate member for TCC.
Any questions? Got it, moving. Councillor McDonald, give me a second, please. Yep, thank you. Right, got it, Charles. Okay, next up here, Tapuike Iwi Authority, update on deliveries. Tēnā, haramai e aku whanaunga.
Tēnā tātou katoa, te kaunihira, te tia mana ki te mihi atu ki a koe koutou hoki. E wāku whanaunga I rungi te tēpū nei, tēnei rā te mihi atu, a ka hōri a homiro tōku ingoa, te tia mana o Tapu Ika Iwi Authority, anei wāku hoa, taku GM nei, a Hinga Tū Marsh, rā o ko Hākopa, tētahi o ngā tāngata ngā pau o te iwi e tautoko hia I a mātou, o reira tēnā tātou katoa.
Tēnā tātou. Jumping straight into the paper that's presented, items under separate cover. On page 1 outlines the deliverables that the issues that will be discussed here. And actions 1 to 5 are listed there, presuming that the papers have been read. Then I'm quite happy to take any questions on any of the deliverable reports that are held on.
Any questions? Yeah, koe Nikki.
Oh, kia ora koutou. I just did want to congratulate you and thank you for your update on the symposium. So, and also just to offer my support to that kaupapa. I think at the last meeting I just raised how one of the red actions in our action plan is sustainable funding for this kaupapa, and just wonder about the opportunity that the symposium presents in elevating the kaupapa and promoting the need for us to invest more in some of the actions in our plan. So yeah, excited about that opportunity and happy to support. And then just the other thing was the Pātaka Kai project. So just thinking about, I was just gearing that up with our budget and just thinking about the funding that you've identified in there was presented as a budget item, or was it a spend, was it a cost item? So just wondering, yeah, the way it's presented, it looks like a budget item that you're looking for funding, or is, yeah, okay, cool. And just thinking about what you might need from us to support that project moving forward. So those are my only 2 comments. Kia ora. Thank you for your report.
Kia ora Nikki, kia koe ting.
He mihi mai ana. Pai tonu te kōrero nei. Hey, in the symposium, it's asking for some members maybe from this board to be part of that. I'm certainly happy to be part of that, to help that. Haimon, I think you and I spoke to him about supporting this kaupapa. So certainly got support from the board members anyway, but we can participate however we go forward. Just another comment in regards. The slides I sent Jenny, this might be a good time to bring those up now rather than at the end, but just around the Pātaka Kai, well, one of the matters I just want to raise in conjunction with this mahi here is around, I suppose, understanding the maramataka and when things should happen on the river. And so, are you able to bring those slides up? Yeah, tātaki. One of the things is at this time of the year, the tuna come back from the ocean and they come up our rivers. And I suppose just a note to Regional Council around the gates. The gates, sometimes I think we need to work closer around when those gates might open. So that's a photo there the other night of the tuna, and they're getting trapped at the gate and then they're getting hammered by the fish. So, I mean, how the gates operate in that, is I suppose a technical thing we could talk about, but a quick obviously solution might be to even open the 2 side gates. There's 12 gates down there, even just opening the other 2, just to let the eels come back in, because we're entering into whitebait season as well. We need to get those tuna through so that they're not getting caught and mixed up with whitebait. Is there another slide? So that's them on the gate, and then so they start pulling here. And then, so those are the gates there. So, Charles, it's really just a technical problem we might be able to think. But even if we look at timing from a tangata whenua perspective around when those gates might open to allow those tuna back into the Kaituna. I mean, we have a program called Te Tinia Tuna, but we don't want to cut the tuna off at the gate here. So we let them get back. So that's really all, but he mihi mai ana kia koutou.
Kia ora tein tautoko tēnā kōrero. Kei ruru tō tātai awa hei awa kai kore.
Hey, raise a point. I raise a point. I do support the symposium. The main reason is it's about customary rights. The ones who can tell the seasons better are the birds, the bees, the fish, and the trees. And if you have a relationship with the birds, the bees, the fish, and the trees, then you would understand the reintegration and the continuous life cycle of fish, the mana of the fish, the birds, the trees. Yeah. Now that's all. The customary right is all part and parcel of our Māori gods. Like matariki. Matariki tells you certain things. Fish know that, birds know that, we've forgotten. So therefore we need to integrate back to those relationships with the birds, the bees, the trees. That's a customary thing. Because when I was young, that's how we used to fish. Certain times, no go. You weren't allowed to have a net. You had to fish by line. When the mullet were running, you can take your nets out. And they used to do that consistently, month by month, by year, season by season, that all those things were integrated with the life cycle of all living things. But now, if we want to go and get a big bucket of mussels or pippies, we've got to go to the bureaucrats and go and get a certificate to go and get a bag of mussels. And the bureaucrats call that customary rights. It isn't. It's rights by some government department.
Any further questions? Kia ora, Nikki.
Sorry, just to address the technical matter a little further maybe, I make an assumption that there's a resource consent for those gates and that the resource consent would have those as conditions, and that in our compliance report that might be one of the consents that this committee asks be checked for compliance.
Yeah, we can definitely go back and have a look at that. And regardless, I think if it's a consent condition or not, there's an obvious need to address it because obviously those tuna are sitting there and they can't migrate to finish their journey. So I'm looking at it going, there's potentially a really simple fix to this. And I'll share. We'll talk with Dean afterwards and the people that operate the gate and see if we just can't open some of those gates, and then the changing currents will attract those tuna straight through that slot. It's we've seen it done at Matahina and a few other dams. It's a really easy fix. So I will definitely be looking into that.
Just to say it, we want to embed that approach into the way those gates are managed moving forward, not just a one-off,
Yeah,
because
and
it was raised here.
yeah,
Kia ora.
and definitely we've got the community meetings coming up for the rediversion project in I think 3 or 4 weeks, maybe sooner than that. And I've already noted that down as one of the improvements that we can do is just ensuring that connectivity is kept.
If I could just emphasize one point in our paper under the concerns of iwi and hapu, point 3, legislative and policy concerns. And we wanted to put that in there because that was a clear theme that came through in all of the engagement that we either hosted or attended. And I think it just confirms what we already know. In terms of the vulnerability that many Māori and iwi reps across these different domains are experiencing at the moment. And a question that my brothers will address is in the current policy direction changes and legislative changes, the Crown has guaranteed that treaty settlements won't be affected. From an iwi perspective, clearly they're being affected. And that leaves iwi organisations in a vulnerable position, particularly given everything else that's going on in the local water done well spaces. So that, sorry, we included that particular point 3 in there, just so it can be formally recorded in this meeting. And I'll just finish this point and then tag. And then I note that in attachment 6, which is Nikki's paper, there are separate recommendations in that which aren't included in our recommendations. So when the committee makes its decisions, you need to make some comment on that. And I don't know, Nikki, whether you want to talk to that particular paper, but I think we sort of get a general sense of it.
Councillor Daly.
Kia ora. Yeah, maybe my comment to our previous speakers might have been interpreted differently. Perhaps I'll apply a different lens on that one, but you can figure that one out yourself. But could you comment on your request for engagement with Blue Haven and obviously Tahiki 8C have declined your invitation, but Blue Haven, is there any talks in the wind there?
So we hosted 5 hui and there were open invitations to 3 of them, which went directly to both of those organisations. Both responded back in terms of acknowledging them, but the dialogue went no deeper than that, and neither did they attend take up the invitation. So we can't. That's what we can say on that point, Councillor.
Not sure if I should ask at this point, but in general, what's Tapuika view on Blue Haven?
Kia ora tātou. Our view on Blue Haven, well, actually, we're reserving our view because we haven't really had any meaningful or genuine dialogue with them. And I guess that's the sum total so far. And we'd like them to engage with us. And as Hakopa mentioned, a number of attempts to do that. Although I do understand that they did appear at Maru's meeting that you held last year at Ngāti Tuheke. I can't remember the date off the top of my head. Is that right? Yeah. That's all I was told in an email from their CEO, Nathan.
York,
York. That's
yeah,
it.
sorry, I didn't attend that
Yeah.
Pūheke meeting, but
Yeah, and I think he considered that as consultation with the iwi. If I could just come back to the picture of the tuna, the young tuna coming back, and the cousins kōrero around Maramataka and Mātauranga Māori e Pānakia o tātou taonga. I think that's probably a big thrust that notwithstanding all the good work Te Maru's done, I think it's something that we need to be exploring with both Tapuika and all the iwi that have vested interest in the health of the awa, because it's not just simply a case of opening those side gates, is it? We need to understand about the ecology, the habitat, and you know, the success of those returning alva that are coming into back to our homeland here, and yeah, I think that's probably a big area that we want to be exploring, along with other issues around tikanga and Māori on the awa. So to that end, you know, that's something we want to continue to grow. That area of the environmental science from a te ao Māori perspective. And kia ora.
Councillor Nees.
Oh, thank you. I just want to say that I really appreciate the clarity of your report to us. It's wonderful to receive it, and very helpful to get your views on the legislative reforms that are coming through. I note you didn't actually mention that the Local Government Amendment Act has taken the four well-beings out of the local government purpose, which is very concerning to us because it will have a flow-on effect as to where councils are able to invest and commit their funds. There's also, you possibly have been aware about statements from some of the ministers about regional councils disappearing in the future. And I'd just like to ask what you think of that proposal, if you don't mind.
Kia ora. Yeah, he pātai pai tēnā. And I think all of us here today have the same intention, and that's to have healthy environment, healthy waterways for our future. So any and all of these changes and reforms are not appearing to support us in that vein, are they? So our stance would be, yes, let's stand together to ensure that we are going to be providing the best opportunity to save the taiao for our whakatupuranga for the young people that are coming up.
And building on that point, given that the Crown's approach is to restructure and continuing that restructure, the plane isn't built, but it's left the ground. And the difficulty it creates for regional, for councils and advisory bodies such as this, is that there's a complete grey area ahead of us. Glass half full, glass half empty. You could pause making key decisions because of that lack of clarity, or you can make decisions because that greyness allows you to do it. So what we're here to say is, well, if there's a lack of clarity, then let's collectively just map out what we want and put in place. Many of those instruments are already in place. When I mentioned earlier that iwi find themselves in a state of duress because of the changes, then we all need to be proactive about how do we ensure that those guarantees are enshrined regardless of what happens. And that fundamentally comes down to a relationship issue. Kia ora.
Do you want to get,
Nikki? Kia koe.
I didn't realise, sorry, that my report was an appendix to this. I did read this morning and I made some notes, so I'm just going to refer to my notes. So I think the paper that I wrote was as a result of a meeting that we had ahead of this meeting, and the general practice has been that the iwi members of Te Maru o Kaituna, when the call for agenda items comes out, we will arrange amongst ourselves to have a hui and have a kōrero about the issues that are impacting us and how they relate to Te Maru. So we've probably done that 2 or 3 times in the last 12 months. It's really fruitful, I think. And so some of the things I've put here is just acknowledging that at times people will come to Te Maru o Kaituna because there's a statutory requirement for them to, both under the RMA but also under our own plan. And so we appreciate that they come here, but that cannot be in the absence of direct and specific conversations with tangata whenua over which they hold rangatiratanga on those taonga. So I think for me, I'm really keen for us to explore as a group, and today may not be the day, but at some point about how we anchor that. How do we anchor and honour the individual iwi members at this table, as well as honour the intent of Te Maru? So really keen if we can make that an action for a future Te Maru conversation, whether it's in a workshop or a hui. So that would be the first thing. The second thing is what I've tried to do in this paper, and it's very high level. It was actually 6 pages long and had lots of detail, and then I just pared it back on advice. But it gave a bit of detail around what some of the things are that we can do as Te Maru to elevate the voice of tangata whenua under which the settlement was actually premised. The foundation of the settlement is tangata whenua and their relationship and rights in respect of this awa. And so how do we honour that as members and as a group moving forward? And just these are just some of the suggestions in this paper about how we could do that in practical ways. So again, really keen to explore that. What else did I write? A symposium, I covered that. Oh, and then the other thing I would say, just probably in response to your question, and I know you weren't asking me, but I'm going to give an opinion anyway, is that this government, regardless of what they are doing, have committed to upholding treaty settlements, which means that this committee is a permanent fixture in the regulatory and leadership space, cannot be undone unless we agree to that. And so the upholding of the settlement would mean that we are part of the decision about what this looks like moving forward. So I kind of agree with Hakupa's comments around actually we can design this moving forward regardless of what the government wants to do. So that's really helpful. What is not helpful then is that we do not have the supporting body in the form of a regional council to uphold our vision in the ways that it can currently. And so it does sever a partnership approach, which does worry me. Doesn't mean that opportunities aren't on the table. We just have to design what those are. So I think some pros and cons, mainly cons at the moment, but I haven't seen the proposal. And then the last thing I wrote down was, he taonga tuku iho is our roadmap really for the work that we do. And again, what I've tried to establish in this paper is there are ways under our plan, under our aspirations, that we can really elevate the role of tangata whenua in the work that we do. And the conversation about the gates at really practical levels, application of mātauranga, monitoring of those things on the awa, the deployment of mātauranga and cultural practices on the awa, like what are we doing as a group to elevate those things? And yes, policy is important, and I can't help it, I'm a geek when it comes to policy, but active participation is also important. So anyway, that was very broad ranging, but.
Nā mihi, Councillor McDonald.
Kia ora koutou. Thank you for the inputs. Always food for thought and challenges too. I guess and I want to touch on what you've raised to Nikki about raising the profile. I just want to say that Te Maru o Kaituna probably leads in the space of, I want to say the word, but it's around mana motuhake. But it's not, I think it's still in progress. But when you look at what's being captured from the perspective of mana motuhake, is that you have your membership around this table. You have the iwi sitting in the chair position. You drove and led the implementation and the development of the document for this forum. I think what we're starting to see now, and rightly so, is around what you're talking about, is about the pragmatic, the practical implementation of what you've created. But I think you should continue to express the view of what mana motuhake is, what it means, because I would imagine that all councillors still need that raised awareness of what that is. And by seeing it practically being done by Te Maru, gives them a further education of what that means. Because I could say that a lot of my fellow councillors still struggle with what that means. And how then do you apply that to council processes, council practices, and even in responses to the legislation that's coming to us. I'm going to say that it was a challenge for us to get consent to submit to the Treaty Principles Bill. It was a struggle to get agreement to submit to the, what do you call it? The RS, the regulations that are, and in that instance, we failed. So we didn't get total support to submit to that. So that's why I see the importance of you being part of these forums and asserting that mana whenua. It has to be done because it also has to not only the wider community, but also our councillors and our councillors who sit around these tables. Because you're right, it can't be relied on 3 councillors to do that here, only 1 at TCC, none at Western Bay. So there is a reliance, on our people, and you can do a lot more. And what you do starts to dictate what our role becomes around this table, and it makes it easier for us because we're hearing what the people were saying, and our advocacy role becomes a lot earlier. So, I want to mihi to you for your report today, and keep coming. No, I won't raise the other issue. I think I just want to leave it at that for today. Ngā mihi.
Maru.
This organisation is you could probably call it a classic organisation of democracy. The reason being we have a whole lot of organisations that are here, and those organisations are armed with acts of decree, through either treaty settlements or they have responsibility on the Local Governments Act, the regional policies and all those sort of things. So we've got it all here. We have got all those instruments here, and it can't be brushed away without, if we really wanted to make a total example, we could go to the highest courts in the land and win because of the acts of decrees that we hold collectively. That's the first point. Second point is about getting rid of the regional council. In my view, that's nonsense. Because the regional council is the closest thing to mountains to the sea. From the mountains to the sea. So if you're looking at a creek that starts at the top of the mountain and ends up giving all the water to a Tauranga District Council called the Waiari, you would have a look at the blood veins as to where that creek had come from the mountains to the sea. And the responsibilities for that lies with the regional council because it has an act of decree that takes the mountains to the sea in that area into account. Your local government it's got a territorial mark line that says from here to here to here to here, and the next door is Tauranga City Council or Western Bay. So we're talking about we can get more involved in customary rights with the regional council than with the local councils. The local councils are inclined to hinder on the rights. This is our territory from here to here. Yeah, but the creek goes right through, and so does the fish. The fish can't see the boundary line. So therefore, the regional council cannot be just thrown out the door. That's nonsense.
Any further questions or comments? Oh, Te Taru, you wanted to speak?
Yes, kia ora, Mr. Chair. Listening to the conversations reminds me of a comment I heard from a very senior politician last year. Listed 7 objectives from his perspective. Number 1, wellness was off the table. And then the bottom one was, it's all about efficiency, effectiveness, and value for money. You could have heard the air drift out of the room at that point, but it's not surprising where we are now, that all legislation seems to be saying we're going to give truth to that. I can never believe that iwi will ever accept that. The social, cultural, spiritual, environmental and commercial well-beings all matter. And in terms of the value for money, it's how you express that in what you do. And that can only come from the community. So from an iwi point of view, you know, how can you make that happen? And I get back to a point that has just been made around coming together. You know, we need to be collaborative in how we work this particular space, because individually we can't do that. And I just cite, for example, the Waihi history, and people get sick of me citing this one, but I will, because it involved 5. Tapuika, starting on the other side, Tapuika, Pikiau, Ngāti Whakaue, Whakahemo, and Makino came together. The first point that they were arguing about who's got the mana, right? So where was the mana in terms of one of the most polluted estuaries in the country? None. Okay, the mana is when you come together and repair the damage done. You know, and can you do that? And that was a question of, you can't do it as individuals, but as a collective, you can do these things. So they came together and they've done it to a large extent. They made massive progress, put the taihas at the door for the moment and got on with the job. The point that I'm making here is that we need more of that coming together. And in this particular situation, where we're talking about removal of the well-beings, well, I can never see where we agreeing to that. And so the picture that I think that you painted, Nikki, about coming together on certain matters and strengthening our cause is the way to go. And at some point, what Te Maru does is hopefully we work together on bringing that points of interest, common interest together to make it stronger. And then take that as our defense against whatever comes down our way, because we know we want to do what's best for our communities of interest, full stop. Governments can never predict and tell us what to do about that. It comes down to us. And that's the role I think Te Maru or Kaituna can have. And as Nikki said, you're a treaty partner. So there's some power in that. I say the same for Te Arawalex Trust, Nikki. There's power in having that notion of being a treaty partner. You've got to exercise it. So look, I don't accept this notion of well-beings out the door. That's rubbish. How can it ever be for a sane community, for working communities in an active and progressive space? You know, that leaves us future for our children to come. So that's just my comment. Bit of a rave, but hey, look, I don't think ever we give up on this and give way to that, because that's not going to work for us. Kia ora.
Councillor Daly.
Yeah, just want to, in the paper on page 6, you talk about Te Tau Ihu or Te Arawa. I assume, is this supposed to be Te Ihu or Te Waka or Te Arawa, the Western Bay Partnership Forum? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I mean, obviously we were present at the Combined Tangata Whenua Forum where we discussed the local waters done well concerns raised with the cross-claim process and hierarchy, iwi, and how that would impact the multi-council CCO. So I really just wanted to acknowledge from our council's point of view the concern about the lateness of the engagement, and I really don't understand how that occurred from an elected member's point of view, because I was under the understanding that that there was engagement earlier than mid-July, but I just wanted to say that, and we felt the we felt it when at that meeting, I think, and obviously our reflection, our decision on the local waters done well, not including TCDC in our multi-council CCO at this stage, was as a direct result of that meeting. Yeah, so thank you.
To the councillor, and what we're simply referring to there is in the local water done well component of the paper, TCC followed a particular method of engagement. District council followed a particular method of engagement, and it was recognised that that wasn't great. But at the tauihui that Councillor Daly's referring to, which was held at Makahai, that's where a combined, where Te Tauihu, the combined council, iwi hui, that would get together, would create a steering committee to identify what went wrong in that engagement and what we can do to fix it. So these are the types of initiatives that can be put in place despite the grey area that we were talking about before. And you can't undo, things that weren't great in the past, but you can certainly build a future that improves it. So that was the hui that we were at together at Makahai, e tua marae, your fellas marae, kia ora.
Any further comments or questions? Okay, I'd like to ask the members if we're happy to take all recommendations in one block, or we can break them up if need be. One block? Happy to do that? Ka pai. All right, can I call for a mover and a seconder for recommendations 1 to 9?
Does that include the recommendations in my paper separately, or are they included in the 1 to 9?
I think they're separate.
Okay.
We'll deal with these first, eh?
Thank you. Move.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. Happy to move. Dean Flair will second. All those in favour say aye.
Actually,
Oh, yeah, Councillor McDonald, second there. All those in favour say aye. Thank you. Carried.
Sorry, Nikki, just wanting to confirm that the 3 actions in your report, we haven't, one of the recommendations is to receive your report, and the 3 actions in that report will be listed as A, B, C under the receives your report.
Aye, we all clear now about that part? Thank you, Jenny. All right, we're going to take a break now for 20 minutes for morning tea. The time currently is 11:17. Let's say 11:30 if we could reconvene, please.
Just a question, a clarification, Mr. Chair.
Sure.
The tapuika paper will be discussed after the break. The relationship paper, which is
Does it seem like
the very last page,
yeah.
appendix 6, item 10.2.
It seems like that was included in the 1 to 9, but we wanted to talk specifically to the paper, the two-page document entitled the Tapuika Iwi Authority in Te Maru o Kaituna Strengthening our relationship and moving forward together. We didn't actually discuss that specifically. We understood that was going to be separate to it was included in all of this.
Page 39, the very last 2 pages of awesome.
Hey, kia ora, hoki mai anō tātou. Right, so I'm going to carry on with Tapuika's report here, the Tapuika Iwi Authority and Te Maru o Kaituna strengthening our relationship moving forward together. Just for your information, this is in the items under a separate cover on the back page, if you'd like to see that. Kia koutou.
A tēnā anō tātou, kua mākona I nāia nei, kua tau te hene ngaro te wairua te tinanga. Kia ora tātou. Thank you for your manaakitanga and that wonderful morning tea. So the paper outline has 3 actions for consideration. And the lead-up conversations we've had thus far to this point have built the sort of foundation of the discussions that have been going on, the negotiations and the issues that have been identified in the iwi and hapu component part of the previous report. So simply, the Tapuika Iwi Authority requests that Te Maru o Kaituna 1 confirms and recognises point 1, which is a point that Whaia Mate Moana touched on just before the break, in terms of mana motu hake, what that is, what it means, and the maturation of this of this body. And in terms of just natural progress, this would always be a question that we'd get to at some point. And as Whaia Mate Moana was saying, how do we collectively, and Nikki, recognise the mana motu hake of iwi members within the framework of Te Maru o Kaituna? So it might, action 1 might seem simple, but it's not actually that simple. Because what mana motu hake means in this context is different to what it means back on the marae and on the awa. So in putting that there, the intention is to open up the discussion of what exactly it does it mean and how are we going to be able to implement it. Action point 2 is simply, we should meet and talk about these things. And that might be in a workshop, in a wānanga, in a setting, and whatever setting is appropriate. But agreeing to meet sooner rather than later And given that this forum won't gather again until, is it March next year? We shouldn't have to wait till then. That's why the urgent component to it is included in that action. And the final one, in terms of the Tapawika and Waitaha seat, again, it's another one of those stating the obvious that we have to figure this out. But our chairperson advises me that he's meeting with the Waitaha representatives next week in order to progress that. If not, tērā tō mātou. Those are the issues before you. We're happy to have a discussion and debate or whiti kōrero. Tēnā tātou.
Can I just speak on point 3? So the latest comms I've had with the chairperson from Waitaha, Arita Gray, is that we are to meet, she said, early September, chair to chair and GM to GM to Ngata South. So hopefully, we're going to we have to, I guess, sort this business out. The sooner we get our seat here again, whether it be Waitaha or ourselves, sooner the better, as far as I'm concerned anyway. So that's the latest kōrero we're here.
Kia ora, thank you for that update. Any further questions or comments around the commentary offered there?
I think, well, my perspective, so in terms of one, it's interesting to me that we have to have it on the table as something to discuss. So, and so that in itself says to me that we need to have a discussion about it, that you have to come here and advocate for this. And so I wonder if that's part of number 2, which is that we are sitting down and having these discussions, and whether it's in a wānanga setting as opposed to in a formal meeting like this, and then we come to the table with it clearly articulated what that looks like and means for this rōpū, for this membership, and then how we would give full effect to it in our deliberations. And then that comes to the C, which is to review the river document, which then would inform, one, the process for that river document to be developed, and then secondly, kind of the aspirations that we might set for it. So I think there's a bit of a process to go through, and I guess with your support would advocate that we have a wānanga to have that kōrero and map that out by design, we would do that. Kia ora.
Councillor McDonald.
Ahead of March.
I think my whakaaro is very similar to Nikki's. Given that we are about to enter into an election phase for Western Bay and Regional Council, I agree that 3rd of March is too far out to revisit what you're putting on the table today, but I don't see any reason why you can't continue those discussions amongst the iwi. What I would like to say, and it would be great if you had your discussions and then formulated how you then wanted to proceed in this space. Firstly, as Tapawika authority, because this has come through your claim. And secondly, the inclusion of the other hapu who also have affiliation to the Kaituna. I think the beauty in what I'm going to assume you're going to come back with is that relationship between yourselves and the iwi, and specifically how you then see your participation in this space, your leading and guiding in this space moving forward. I think the opportunity that could arise for you in the new term is the ability to come back and revisit even how regional council looks at the structure and the management, operation and implementation of co-governance. So my suggestion would be we acknowledge what you've put on the table today. We allow you to proceed with what you want to achieve and what you're telling us. And so that you are ready to come back and have that discussion when the new council comes to the table around, well, how you want to have mana motuhake acknowledged within the Te Maru o Kaituna space, what that looks like, because you would have already that. And then that gives the opportunity of the new council to look at what you've done, and even make the request of revisiting of how that works, and how we then address what you're asking for moving forward.
Further questions or comments? Kia ora, Mr. Flavell.
The comment. I think what Mati Moana's just laid out is great. I think that, when I look at this, this is a pathway you've provided, so we can walk the pathway. I do think we can start that conversation within our iwi, and then invite other participants of this board to be part of that. I like the idea of new council coming in, so that gives us from now to the end of this year to be able to hold those wānanga and then come up with a brief that we can then share with new councillors. And then as tangata whenua, we should be all on board by then as well. So, me mai ana kia koutou. Thank you for what you've done, really. It's because I think we're at a time now where we need to kind of up the ante. So we've done a few good things over the time since settlement, but I think we can do better. And we've seen some of the presentations this morning around how our whānau are wanting to utilise their whenua, and maybe we start looking at those sorts of things as well, and how we can help support that. Me mai ana kia koutou.
Maru.
There's a large, big difference between management and governance. Governance should be acted on immediately. In other words, as soon as you set up the governance as possible, better. Because otherwise you'll get a mixed mix between governance and management. The governance is quite different to management, and there's likely to be a collusion of those who are not in governance and taking part in management. So priority one, get your governance up running as soon as possible. Then you can be included in the management. It's very subtle, but it's very damaging once you get into it.
Boy, any further questions or comments?
Just one. Yeah, the sooner we get our Waitaha Tapuika seat on this, the better. Yeah.
I think we've got an idea about what the future looks like in the near future. So thank you for your presentation, Tapuika. Tēnei te mihi atu. Nā tini whetū ki te rangi, ko Tapuika ki te whenua. E ngunguru nei. Kia ora tātou. Okay, moving on to further reports. So we have the 2024-2025 annual report and proposed budget for 2025-2026. This is on page 17 of the agenda and presented by Charles Harley. Kia ora, Charles.
Thank you, Chair. So if I could take this report, please, as read, and I'll just bring to your attention the finances. So starting year balance, end of the last financial year, which rolls around on the 30th of June, $195,561.34. Interest received $9,830.89. Less expenses $2,301.17. Left you your balance to start the year, which was $203,091.06. So that was the financials for the last year, and that is the money with the regional council hold in trust for you. With the budget going forward, I've put in there some finances towards the position which you had agreed to at one of the previous hui around getting some support, and currently that's provided by Alva Conroy, and that's where that budget sits. That's not solely, that's up to the discretion of the chair and the members as to where that support is required from. And the $500 from the giant cockapoo translocation, that was a carryover from the previous year where it was suggested that that could happen with the symposium. So it's just, I've just popped it in there, and really though, this is an area up for discussion.
Comments? Nikki?
I think that question mark should be $1. I'm just not sure how much for the symposium. And then, so a contribution towards the symposium would be great. I suppose once we get I imagine Iero, who were mentioned in Tapuika's report, the work that they're doing, I'm not sure if that's from this budget or that's a different budget line. And then the other for the symposium, so whether we want to agree in principle that there should be a contribution. And then the other thing was in Tapuika's presentation, they talked about a budget for the Pātaka Kai project and whether that would normally come from this or there are other funds that regional council have for biodiversity or restoration projects that we would recommend they apply for. So just looking for some guidance on how that has been done in the past. Kia ora.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, so in relation to the consultant working alongside Tapuika, that was paid for last financial year. So that cost has already been met. And with going forward with the Pātaka Kai, those figures that you saw were what was paid historically, and at the moment there will need to be a conversation going forward over the maintenance of those sites.
And so does that mean we would consider bids for funding if they were to come to us, we would consider that at the time rather than set that now? Or do we have to set the budget for the year now?
At the moment, we haven't received a request for funding for the Pātaka Kai going forward. Yeah, so that makes it a little bit more trickier to determine how much that should be. Same with the River Symposium. It may be too early at this stage unless the members want to earmark some funding, but at the moment we don't know. Part of the work which the consultants are doing is looking at potential funding streams, which will be able to be applied to as well for funding.
Oh, so then maybe I suggest we adopt this budget and then when those details come to light, we can then see whether Te Maru can support if there's a shortfall or a contribution that we'd like to make the symposium. And equally for the Pātaka Kai, we could at a later date say if they don't receive funding that we would make a contribution. Was that?
I did ask if when Tapuika get to a stage where they have financial information and more of a plan that they could share it, and then there's an opportunity to have a quick wānanga around that to just confirm that everyone's happy with what's being proposed.
Sorry, is that able to be done via, say, email or something, and then the two chairs, the deputy and the chair, can make that decision on behalf of the board? On the budget, that's. Yeah.
If can we pass a resolution to that, Jenny, that that any changes to the budget could be made by the chair and the deputy? If everyone agreed to that, yeah.
I can move that.
Second.
Seek some clarification. When you talk budget, are you talking what you're raising in number 4?
So we tend to try and set an indicative budget to forecast any costs that we know might be there, and the River Symposium at the moment is sitting in an area where we just haven't got that information to be able to bring a figure to the forum.
Okay, so the decision that you're wanting from the chair and deputy chair then is around the figure where the question mark sits. You're going to bring that in and fill that gap, but what guarantee do we have that the members will be happy with that? If you're just including,
Mr. Flavel was just offering.
I know what I'm hearing. I know what I'm hearing, but I've also heard what I've heard around the table and the comments around that. So I'm just, maybe the email goes out that we've had this, I think, and then everybody comments, and then we make the decision. I just think that we shouldn't close off to everyone sitting here having the opportunity to make that comment. Happy to make the decision once the comments have come in. But I think just to be more transparent of what we're talking about here along the finances. What I'd like to add to is, I think when we look at what comes back around that budget, what we should start to consider, in my experience, wearing my hat in an iwi space, is around one of the things we could look at is when we look to fund things like the symposium that have been carried out by hapu that are affiliated here that are relevant to Maru o Kaituna. One of the things we could look at, and we should have the conversation with the three councils, is that we could each make a contribution to the project, which then provides the seed funding that allows them to go to philanthropic funders. One of the key of gaining philanthropic funding from applications made by iwi, in my experience over the last 12 months, is they look more favourably if you have made the attempt to go elsewhere and that you have actually got seed funding sitting in your budget. And I'm thinking if we can provide to the iwi seed funding from each of the 3 councils, then that gives them really good weighting on them being successful in achieving that philanthropic funding. And I know Alva's in the room, and Alva can just nod my head to say whether that's correct, because I know she's been doing it as well. So, you know, I think that's a valuable thing for us to consider when we're looking at financing some of these activities that involve council and involved tangata whenua. I think we should look at the advantages we have in having these co-arrangements and the value of these co-arrangements when we're looking for funding outside of our councils that the iwi are able to do, not necessarily the councils, but definitely the iwi. So I guess it's just food for thought in some of the discussions we move forward, some of the discussions you can have with Tapuika as well. or in any of our other hapu sitting around this table looking at projects in their camps. Kia ora.
Councillor Daly.
Yeah, I'd just like to endorse Mate Moana's statement about that and or suggestion, because all the partner councils do actually have their own funds set aside for, you know, some things, well, events funds. They all contribute to a regional events fund as well, but they also have staff resource available to assist on during actual events as well. I mean, I don't want to, we're in the middle of an election campaign, so restricting extra funds for things like this might be a bit tricky, but certainly there are avenues and existing funding streams that are available for something such as this. And as an example, I could give the $5,000 that was committed by Maru towards the Lawrence Oliver wetland project in Te Puke, and that allowed us to gain $30,000 worth of funding from TECT towards that project. Thank you.
We're going through a evolutionary process right now, changing world. And one thing that's blatantly obvious globally is global warming. How much have we planned towards global warming? I would say not. We haven't, but we can guarantee it's arrived at this particular time. The second point I want to raise is regional council own, I think, about 56% of the port fundings. There should be a contribution from the port in terms of getting some sort of literature review on global warming. Then we would be in advance in terms of preparation that won't have too much impact on your local ratepayers. So there's a contribution that the port funding should be doing, and I think that I would call it evolution, the evolutionary change. Everybody around the world knows that global warming is here, but what are they doing about it? And that's what we need to be considering right now, doing some sort of literature review on the likely impacts that's going to happen with global warming in this country, taking into account, as I pointed out earlier, the mountains to the sea, your waterways, the three waters, all those sort of things need to come into play. Otherwise, we'll be in a panic situation of dealing with these issues at the last minute.
Any other questions or comments?
So where have we landed with this? We're going to keep it with the Kaituna symposium. We put in a dollar value to that, or are we just leaving it open to? Okay.
Or just to comment on, follow Mati Moana's comment, I think if the symposium is ours, I would like to suggest that we at least allocate a $10,000 budget for the symposium in this budget. If it requires more, then we can come back to the membership at a time when we know that and move that. The total is 20,500 with 10,000 for the symposium and 10,000 for the support and 500 for the kōkapu.
Okay, any comments about Nikki's suggestion? Okay, so the changes are presented on the screen at the moment. Are we happy with that? Right? Okay, so Councillor McDonald's moving. Can we have a seconder, please? Nikki Douglas. Or Nikki Douglas. All those in favour say aye. Carried.
Yeah, and with included in that report is the chair's report, and I'll hand over to Joel because there was a, sorry, to the chair, because there was a change that he wanted to note.
Yeah, there's just some of the dates in below points A and B at the beginning of the report. It's got 2021 and 2022, should be 2024 and 2025. Any amendment? Thank you. This will be noted in the minutes. Okay, so now we're looking at the recommendations 2, 3, and 4 from the list there. Oh, okay. Already done. Moving on. Okay, July 2025, Te Maru o Kaituna biennial report. Mr. Charles Harley again.
Thank you. If I could be this report taken as read, please. So this has been compiled with information supplied from other organisations throughout the rohi. If there is any questions, I'm more than happy to go back to whichever team they came from and seek clarification, and then ask that that be circulated around all of the members. Just because simply I have to apologise and say that I'm not actively involved in every single project, so I don't have that overview. So I can't provide that clarity for you today, but I can go away and get that information for you.
Good, Nikki.
Sorry, I did read it because I just remembered that in March this was tabled and skimmed over. So I just do want to acknowledge the work that people are doing in implementing the Tuna action plan. And I did make some comments. So just on the in the general sense, some of the monitoring, just thinking about some of the positions put by Puika this morning in positions of other iwi, the role that they play in monitoring both through a compliance, evidence, and then a mātauranga lens, just really encouraging council to think about how we utilise their skills and expertise in this space. On the second project, the freshwater quality and quantity limits report, so I just want to say thank you for that, and just had a brief conversation over lunch about actually, again, if this rōpū is thinking about the design of how we implement our own plan, then actually it could be on us and potentially tangata whenua groups at this table to think about the existing limits, what we want those limits and targets to look like, and identifying for ourselves those attributes that are measured. And even though there are changes in the RMA and national policy statements, actually by design we could do some of that work ourselves. So just want to acknowledge the work that has been done, and then probably the challenge just that we engage in that more. I'd also just wanted to note in the compliance report, there was a few significant events in the compliance report, Charles, so just an update on what's happening with those. So what is the follow-up, please? Particularly the effluent ones, what are the mitigations for some of those breaches? We're really keen to understand what they are, the timeline that we're working to for those. I imagine it's part of the local water done well program, but really keen to understand how they're prioritised by council CCOs at the moment with the work that they're doing in that space. I did notice an outstanding action around a meeting between this group and the Rosuru Te Aroa Lake Strategy Group. Wallace Homaha is the chair of that, and Joel, I just wonder if you and Wallace have a chat about how we make that happen. I'm on the strategy group, so I'm happy to do that, but chair to chair probably makes sense. The farm plans, I'd really like to see an example of a farm plan. And then I'd like to also understand how those farm plans are giving effect to the Kaituna River document. That would be really helpful, particularly for farms in our catchment. They don't have to be filled in. I just do want to see a template and what people are asked to think about in this space, in that space.
With that one, we're also waiting a little bit more direction from the government on what will be within those farm plans, and they're looking heavily towards the industry farm plans at the moment, and we are trying to influence to ensure there's a lot of local perspective into plans.
Well, can I see the industry one then? As feedback, thank you. And then just the work in the wetland space, just really want to acknowledge the amount of investment and work that our communities, iwi and the council are putting into the re-establishment and restoration of our wetlands, particularly in the lower Kaituna catchment. That's it. But thank you to everybody who's working in the action plan space. Kia ora.
Nikki, any other comments? I've got one about Project 12. This is on page 63 of the agenda. There's a highlighted note there. Staff have requested feedback from Te Maru o Kaituna governance as to the expectations around timing or other aspects about this project. None has yet been received. Now, I know this has been sitting here for some time, this request from the people doing this project, but thought I'd raise it here and hopefully we can give some feedback. What do we think? Councillor Daly.
What was the actual nature of the, who was the request from? Which staff? Regional council staff?
Western Bay, sorry. Scott Parker.
The request was from Scott.
Correct. Okay. He's provided the report. So I understand with my hapu hat on, there were some issues around land access, Māori land blocks that were proposed that this cycleway, walkway went across. And there were some issues there. Since then, I haven't heard much about this project.
This is the cycleway connection from the bridge over the TEL bridge over the Kaituna at Bell Road boat ramp, basically, down to the Autoparia at Makatu, the Makatu boat ramp. As there is, I'm not aware of any, the only land issue is crossing the dairy farm at the lower end, I believe, which is the Simmerlink property. And I personally, I've had a conversation with them and they're open to a conversation. I haven't had an actual conversation about access, but there has been some at senior management level, I believe, from Western Bay. And I've had my own conversation with one of the owners and they're open to discussing the proposal. That's the only one that I'm aware of that stops this going ahead, apart from the Fish and Game, who do duck shooting in the wetland during the duck shooting season, and there may need to be some consideration given for maybe restricting access during duck shooting season, but otherwise I don't believe there's any other reason why this cycleway connection couldn't be progressed if an agreement was reached with the SEMA links.
Okay, so the question is about expectations about timing for this particular project. I think if we give them some direction or time frame about when we wanted this achieved by, that's what they're after.
I might have a conflict of interest with this one because I am involved in cycleway work in Te Puke, but I think it would be helpful if Te Mok, if they were in agreement to ask for some sort of progression.
Nikki,
I did have a question when I was reading the list of actions under the Te Tini plan about the relative priority of different projects. So, and if anybody has any understanding of how we were thinking about priority, because my understanding from reading this is it's a funding excess, and then the next issue will be a funding issue. So if there was specific funding set aside for access purposes, then I would say once you've got access, get on with it. But if there is no funding and there was a need to tap into broader funding, which might then sideline restoration and ecological efforts, I know where I would prefer to see the resource spent. So if there's funding allocated for access cycleways, sweet, use that money. But if you're competing for ecological funds to do cycleway, I would prefer it was invested in ecological outcomes. So that's just my comments filled up.
Just in response, I would say that if permission was granted, if all the consents were achieved, then the funding doesn't necessarily have to come, I mean, like our previous discussion about third-party funders, it would then give the opportunity to go and apply to places like TECT, for example, for funding to establish a pathway. But in terms of that connection, that pathway, the route being accessible, it would actually be accessible without actually forming any gravel pathways or such. You know, it's on the top of a stop bank, so it would actually be walkable as it currently is, and that would also prove the popularity and the maybe need or interest in developing it further.
Any further comment? Okay, so I think what I'm hearing is we want to know what's the status of the land they want to use for this cycle walkway first. Once we understand that, we can look at how that might be funded. Right? All right. Could we communicate that back to the gentleman's name, sorry? Scott, yeah. All right, moving on. Okay, so we've got a recommendation, receive the report. Te Maru o Kaituna biennial report. Can I ask for a mover, please? Good day, Councillor Nace. Second. Thank you, Douglas. All those in favour say aye. Carried, thank you. Okay, next one, Regional Biodiversity Strategy, Connecting People with Nature, presented by Chris Single. Kia ora, Chris, and welcome.
Kia ora koutou. Mr. Chair, members, ko Chris Single, Taku Ingoa, General Manager, Integrated Catchments with Toi Moana. So this is the start of a conversation that we're trying to get going. In my view, biodiversity, it's a well-being that benefits all people. So Toi Moana is reaching out at this stage to all of our partners to invite your involvement in helping us develop a regional strategy to take biodiversity forward to the next step. The premise that the councillors have come up with on this is that more can be achieved when partners work together and support each other in any kaupapa. So that's the premise that we want to work on. And my view is that a successful strategy would be one where the most number of people get involved in this. So this is our reaching out to you to say, if you want to be involved directly as iwi, marae communities, hapu, councils, community groups, care groups, catchment groups, whatever shape or form, we want you to be involved in this going forward. So currently, I think we're in listening mode. So we're reaching out and we're saying, if you know somebody who wants to be involved, get in touch with myself or Lisa Power. Lisa's the name's on the screen there. She's our senior planner in the Whakatane office, who's worked on a lot of biodiversity work in the past and also on the pest management plans. So she's quite involved and knowledgeable. And I think what we're going to do first is we're going to put a survey together to attract people's attention, and we'll send that out to anyone who wants to participate, and that will gather in people's ideas on what would a strategy look like, because we haven't written anything down yet. So we're seeking your input first, and then we'll get the ideas, and then after Christmas we'll look to put something together on paper. So in the paper on page 70, I think page 73 and 74 are the bits that got my attention. That was the work that has been done through this group on Te Paurepu o Kaituna, the wetland restoration work that this group has done. That fits in my mind into this biodiversity restoration kaupapa. So these examples are all around us of the work that's being done right now and continues to be done. But if we work together and put that into a strategy, then the idea is that we may be able to leverage off that collaborative effort and maybe take the next step forward from being in second gear up to third gear, or maybe even further. So that is the concept. So I know that many of you will already be involved in groups that deliver biodiversity outcomes. So, Nikki, I know you've been doing this for a long time. Te Aroa Lakes Trust are very involved. And Tapuika as well. So yeah, we want to get your stories together and put them together and make this thing into something that means something to our people. Yeah, so just let me know who you think might want to participate, and we'll reach out to everyone you give me the address for. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Chris, any questions?
I just think to follow the theme of this meeting would be direct engagement as a bottom line expectation. So if the purpose of this group is to support where people go to engage on specific issues, then I would say each of the tangata whenua members would need to have direct engagement on this. And then I did write down something else. And then the other thing I'm interested in is once you've talked to tangata whenua at place about their taonga, then I'd be interested in understanding how that then aligns also with he taonga tuku iho, the Kaituna River document. So creating that alignment. Where there are differences, then that would probably feed into the review that we might be talking about next year. And then the other thing I would be wondering about is how Te Tine o Tuna then shapes up as a mechanism to implement the biodiversity strategy. So just thinking about iwi hapu at place, how that aligns with our existing strategy, and then an implementation plan aligned with Te Tine o Tuna, and that it's biodiversity in the water and on the whenua. Builder. Or in the ocean, yes, sorry. But build up.
Thank you, Nikki. Some good guidance there. All right, thank you. Sorry, Maru.
I think this refers to what I was talking about earlier on, about a literature review on the and using the port funds as part of that literature review into this very issue. And I would head this, I would call it evolution. I would also call it addressing the global warming, and to also include something like a triple bottom line: social, cultural, and environmental well-being. Because if you add up all those together, it's only then where you can define and have a projection of where you're going economically.
Okay, can I call for a mover and a seconder, please, for this report? Kia ora. Councillor Morris. Second. Oh, kia ora. Maru taps. Okay, all those in favour say aye. Confirmed. Carried. Okay, local government election update. Steve. Oh, he's online there. Kia ora.
Ngā mihi Chair, kia ora koutou. Ko Steve Groom toku ingoa, I'm the governance manager here at Bay of Plenty Regional Council. Thank you for saving the most exciting item till last on the agenda. The short version of this paper, I'll take it as read, but is basically that as a statutory committee, Te Maru o Kaituna won't change as a result of the local government elections, but some of the members around the table may change depending on the outcome of those elections and decisions of the councils about their appointments to this committee. Just as an idea of timing, for Bay of Plenty Regional Council, at least the inaugural meeting when councillors are sworn in will be on 30th of October, and decisions about appointments to committees is scheduled to be made on 18th of November. That's probably the gist of it. I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay.
This is random, but and I do understand democracy, but I do want to ask the question: what role would we play in determining who the members are that sit on this committee with us? Apart from voting in the election, of course.
Yeah, voting in the election. It's up to the appointing bodies to appoint their members, but then of course the committee has a paper to there'll be a paper to accept the nominations onto the committee, if that makes sense.
The decision of council as to who goes where within this legislative structure.
Councillor Scrimger.
Yeah, I would suggest that after the election, if you wish to, it's appropriate to talk to the mayors and suggest, you know, if you have people who you would like to see around this table, then talk to them about it at that point, because they have a big say in who's appointed to the various committees.
Thank you. That's very good advice. Kia ora.
Oh, any other questions for Steve? Councillor Daly.
Add to John's comment, it's been unilaterally decided by our mayor for the Western Bay appointments in the past. I don't believe there's been any consultation.
There's been discussion with the members about where they would feel comfortable serving. Yeah.
Any other questions for Steve?
You wear 3 hats at once.
Prior to the elections.
Yeah, after our due diligence, thank you, Steve.
Prior to the elections, can we lobby by way of having huis on the marae? Is that illegal?
Did you have another comment, Grant?
I just wanted to add that Western Bay will have a Maori ward next triennium as well. So there will be a Maori ward councillor on Western Bay, because I think, was it Mati Moana talked about 3 regional council Maru ward members, 1 TCC Maru ward member, and no Western Bay at this stage.
Okay, before calling for a mover and a seconder, I'd like to acknowledge some people. So thank you to all the council reps for your mahi on Te Maru o Kaituna over the last 3 years. Nakara, Councillor Lani Kireopa, Rotorua Lakes Council, Councillor Andy Witches and Councillor Grant Daly, Western Bay Plenty District Council, Councillor Steve Morris, Councillor Rick Currick, who stood in for Councillor Sydney McKighty, and Councillor Hemi Rolliston, who's been newly appointed by Tauranga City Council. Councillor Matimoana McDonald, Councillor Te Tari White, and Councillor Jane Nees, Regional Council. Also, thank you, Matimoana, for your work as Deputy Chairperson. Ngā mihi kia koe. We wish all the best to those not standing for re-election. Councillor Lani Kireopa, Rotorua Lakes Council, and Councillor Van Nees, Regional Council. And wish those standing for re-election good luck with your campaigns. Nakara, Councillor Te Tari White, Councillor Mate Moana McDonald, Regional Council again, and Councillor Andy Wickers and Councillor Grant Daly, standing for Western Bay Plenty District Council. And John Scrimger, re-standing again also for Bay Plenty Regional Council. Good luck to you all. I look forward to hopefully working with some of you again in the next train. Ngā mihi.
Chair, through you, I just want to make mention, Jane, as you step away from Regional Council and Maru Kaituna. Just want to take this moment to thank you. You've been here when we first started, and you've journeyed through this, and you've been very close to me in regards to installing, I suppose, what we now know as the Maru o Kaituna. But I just want to personally thank you and acknowledge the work that you've done to support us, but more so to support the mana and the mauri of the river itself.
Kia ora, tautoko. Okay, can I call for a mover and a seconder? The recommendation is that we receive the local government election update. Kia ora, Councillor McDonald moved, second. Councillor Daly. Tēnā koe, thank you. All those in favour say aye. Confirmed, motion carried. And we're at our last one for today. Kia ora, Joe, with the freshwater policy update on page 79 of the agenda. The time is yours now, Joe.
You can hear me. Oh, yes. So, yeah, Steve thought he had the last hurrah with the local government election paper. Well, the freshwater policy update takes the trumps. So, as you said, Chairman, the item is 10.7 and it's on page 79. And I'll take this paper as read, but the kōrero that we've had here today, I think we're all, as has been highlighted, we're all in the thick of this freshwater and RM reform, and the uncertainty and unsettling that we've heard today, and where iwi fits and where co-governance fits, and the strength and the mana of your river document are all dear to our heart, as is what, as the legislation comes to bear, we'll have to navigate our waka together to put that puzzle together. And as you've seen, some of it is even some of the ministers have even expressed threatening their existence of regional council, for example. But I think where we stand today, fresh water is always going to be important. The treaty settlement obligations are there to be honoured, which is, the ministers have said that. It's just how we pick up the pieces. Once we know what that legislation is, then we can regroup, but the work still needs to be done. The hour is still there, the people are still there, and your river document is still there. So I'm still on that page, as is the water policy team. So having said that, we are in this period of pause, and the government has extended that period of pause for putting in place the freshwater plan changes and all plan changes out another 2 years to end of 2027, which is effectively 2028. So we've been out and about engaging, and the paper summarises that engagement with tangata whenua, farmers and councils, and there's just bullet points there of the kōrero that's been happening in this uncertainty, acknowledging that. But I guess in light of the kōrero we've had today, I'd like to highlight section 6 of the paper and encourage Te Maru and the Kaituna, iwi and hapu to really use this paused time to consider what evidence that you need to put in place to be in a really strong position to advocate for the fresh water and the iwi connection to your awa, and use your strength in the Te Maru functions that you have to facilitate iwi hapu conversations in that space, and use the other function that you have, which is to advise and recommend council of all things about freshwater and the Kaituna. So yeah, use this time productively would be my tautoko to you, and I think it is time for that reinvigoration, time for the symposium, and it's all there for the taking. One way to do that, and my computer's just closed, so I'll just talk out loud, but one strength, we don't know whether we know that the policy statement is not going to sustain the review, but we don't know the timing of that. So in the meantime, I suggest you have a really good look at those policies and methods that you guys have inserted into that overarching document and answer those questions with evidence. So there's some really key things that the river document inserted into that policy statement. There are things about identifying and mapping cultural significant areas in the awa. There's things about locations of swimming, etc., etc. Some real keys in there that if you use this time and actually pull together iwi and hapu to furnish the next council with recommendations, I think that holds you in really good stead. It's exciting times, I think.
Good, Joe. Any questions for Joe?
I think this really strongly links to Project 2 and Te Tini Atuna. And so I think that's fantastic advice, Joe. And I think the opportunity, so, you know, I hate and love the NOF at the same time, because it does give some specificity to what outcomes mean at a granular level that we haven't had before. And so whether or not it survives the reform, it has given us a way of thinking about not just the values, but how we might deliver on those values in really tangible, granular ways. So I really want to support the idea that each of us as tangata whenua members talk to our practitioners in this space and have them come to workshops with the council. And I would encourage council staff to be thinking about how you can lean more into the delivery of Project 2, which is freshwater quality and quantity values, which we've already identified as part of our work plan. So I think we just need to integrate the work that we're doing together really strongly, bring our practitioners into the room so they can help you with the granularity that's needed. I know some of that's already happening, but I think it's on some of us to support our whānau to turn up into those spaces. The other thing I would ask is the ability to have some of that resourced, for our whānau to be turning up into those spaces so that their contribution can be through Te Tini a Tuna as a vehicle, which is Te Mana o Te Wai by any other name. Kia ora.
Thank you. I was just going to reflect that that was a really good observation about the link between this work and Project 2. And I just guide you to the actual page in Te Tini a Tuna, which on Project 2, which actually gives an email address in there of someone, Kerry, that you can contact to provide your views. So, and we'll be available to, provide support if necessary.
Definitely. So the kaupapa in Project 2, there's no two ways about it. That is our freshwater policy kōrero. The lady's name at the bottom of the report is Kerry Brown, as she's sitting in the lovely wahine here, and she is leading out the kaupapa freshwater space and the wānanga that we've been having in the Kaituna, Rotorua, Rangataiki, etc. So I'll let her talk to that. Yes.
Kia ora koutou. Tēnā koe te siamana. So kia ora, my name's Kerry Brown, Senior Advisor in Te Amorangi Māori Policy. And we've been running a number of workshops throughout the year, targeted to practitioners actually. So we've reached out to iwi authorities, Tapuika, Waitaha, numerous contacts throughout down Kaituna Awa, and have held a couple of workshops so far this year. We have another one planned coming up. So again, encourage those who you think should be there, practitioners, kaitiaki, to come along and be involved. I'll talk to you about that, give you the details of that.
Further comments or questions? Councillor Daly.
Sort of related, but not specifically, but Joe, I was wondering, there's been talk about disestablishing regional councils, also removing the requirement for regional plans as well. Have you got any thoughts or updates on that you know about?
Got a few thoughts, but I might not share them here. No, I think to be fair, I've been in this resource management space for the odd 30 years, so getting a bit grey on it now. And so we've seen this all before. So although it's unsettling and uncertain, it's just the flow and ebb of resource management reform, I guess. And the Resource Management Act gets blamed for a whole lot of things. And yes, it is a bit of an ugly beast now with everybody's additions over various governments adding on and subtracting from it. But we had this very thing with the Labor government. They put in 2 new acts to replace the Resource Management Act. It didn't have bipartisan agreement and was biffed out as part of the coalition government. So there's a blueprint there. I don't think it's as scary as it seems. We've just got to just wait and see that we've got the blueprint. The work still needs to be done. The environment still needs to be cared for. So whatever vehicle we end up with, it'll slot in. And my pick is it's going to be a very similar but nuanced, different approach that Labor had put in place. There's going to be no doubt a one plan. So there'll be a spatial plan component. There'll be whatever is left of the regional policy statement slotting in. They've said that there'll be a spatial plan, 1 chapter for the region and 1 chapter for each of the districts. And at this stage, we're very unclear about the transition. That might be 10 years away. It might be no, you've got to do a smoosh together and do it in the first year. We're really uncertain about the time frame and the vehicle, but the freshwater work still needs to be done. The science still needs to be done. Iwi still need to be involved, and kaitiaki still needs to be on the ground, and the river documents fit in there somewhere. So yeah, I'm less concerned and more philosophical about, doesn't matter which organisation we work for, the skill set is still needed and it'll slot in.
In terms of if there's no regional council, then that work has still got to be progressed somewhere, whether it's within the district council or a unitary council, I guess.
That's right. And my tautoko to this group is to really use that treaty settlement and the strength and mana of the river document to sheet that home. That's not going away. The people aren't going away. So the trouble that we'll have, I guess, is that the mandate is more about growth and development and economics and less about the taio. So that's why my tautoko to this group is to be ready, get the evidence, use the time. We didn't have the time before to really get down to the details of exploring those cultural sites or exploring the exact locations of some of these things. We do have a bit more time now. And I think that would hold you in good stead.
Final comment, myself and the Deputy Mayor had a conversation with the Minister, the spokesman for local government for the Labour Party yesterday morning, and they indicated that they were not planning on going forward playing political ping pong with legislation and these big changes that keep coming, swinging one way and the other way. So it'd be interesting how that goes with the regional council and regional plan decision, I guess. But
Maru.
Sometimes we get sabotaged by electioneering, and this is one of those occasions. Politicians only come every 4 or 5 years, but there's a long-term impact. We actually need to be looking at the long-term impact. That's why the issue I raised is we need a literature review using the port funds to get that literature review to exactly what's being proposed now. And doing a literature review is, as I pointed out, that global warming has arrived. It's here. And there's two ways of looking at it. You either wait for the ambulance or you run out there with your first aid kit. Because if you run to catch the ambulance, you might end up over the cliff with it too. So the idea is to do it now, not later. So yeah, I commend your proposal.
Further comments, questions? No? Okay, I'd like to call for a mover and seconder to receive the report. Moving, Nikki Douglas. Second, Maru Tapsut. Thank you, Joe and Kerry, and it's great to have a laugh. I think the last couple of presentations in person, you were waving a stick at us. Good, thank you both. Okay, we've got a bit of time for verbal updates if there are any members. Grant?
are you happy for me to do that, John? Oh, okay. Okay, look, I've just got an update from Katie McGinnity, who's our on the Western Bay team. So it's just regarding the Te Puke wastewater treatment plant project. Council has received a price for the construction of the new treatment plant and will be considering the award early in September. There has been some opposition to us adopting at this stage, but anyway, we plan to do that at our last council meeting, I believe. Meetings with Te Ohu Parawai are held on a regular basis to give iwi an update on the project. The focus of the last meeting has been around the proposed technology because the new plant will use I guess an innovative new technology that's been used overseas, but not so much in New Zealand. I think there's one existing wastewater treatment plant in New Zealand that uses this new technology, which produces better outcomes for the similar sort of money as the existing traditional wastewater treatment in New Zealand. And also the need to make progress with the alternative disposal options in terms of the treated wastewater. What happens to it? Currently, it's dispersed straight into the Waiari through a rock filter. And the other options, there's a range of options available from ocean out for pastoral distribution, forest spray, wetland into wetland, and so forth. I think, Maru, you've been party to some of those previous discussions on optioneering, and that hasn't been concluded yet, so needs to be finalised. So the Mayor also met with representatives from Tapuika and agreed to review the consenting process for the Te Puke wastewater treatment plant consent so that all parties can learn from it. It was also agreed to progress the alternative disposal options analysis with urgency and suggest that a similar process to the Te Ohu Waiora group be followed to produce an alternative disposal report to council. So that is the group that progressed the optioneering for the Katikati wastewater treatment plant, which currently goes through an ocean outfall through Matakana, through the Tauranga Harbour, through Matakana Island, and offshore. So that group ended up retaining the existing option. That's all, thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Any other updates?
Yes, not so much an update, but I suppose a request to Maru Kaituna, and because Chris is here, in the past I've attended the Kaituna Catchment Control Scheme Advisory Group, and it's the chair of this, but I'm just wondering if I continued that relationship on behalf of Maru, just so that we have a seat also on that board. So I see Chris is there. It's really, it was brought about so that that advisory board and this one kind of work together. And we understand what's going on, those sorts of things. I know generally the chair will go, but I suppose to relieve my chair from his busy schedule, I'm just putting it on the table. If be all right if I attended on behalf of Maru Kaituna.
Comments?
To support that continued representation, if you're happy to do it, Dean.
Are you able to attend those meetings? Kia ora. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I've struggled to get to those meetings, and I think what you suggested is really good. Councillor Nez.
I think the next meeting's next week.
Yeah.
I think the next meeting is next week.
It's weeks.
Yeah, great.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, Steve. My bad.
Nā tēnā koe tia mana, and tautoko to ngā hoa ki Tapuika before, who mentioned Nathan York and Blue Haven, and that development, of course, is happening over the paddock from us in Tauranga City in the Western Bay of Plenty district. But we, in a briefing with Nathan York, emphasised the importance of Blue Haven and their co-developers in meeting and discussing with hapu, and Tapuika was mentioned in that, but all the hapu who are rohi, and that they need to do that deliberately, meaningfully and purposefully. So we raised that in our meeting with Nathan. So I was just tokoing what ngā mātuas from Tapuika were saying in regard to that. Also met with some of the other developers in the Te Tumu area, and reiterated to them the importance of engaging at a hapu level tangata whenua, and how important that is in terms of them being able to deliver their aspirations for the land. And lastly, as my colleagues from Western Bay will of course know, Tauranga City Council is submitting a water services delivery plan, which involves delivery of water services in-house until 2027 and thereafter in a council-controlled organisation. And at this stage, the plan has stormwater, which of course affects Kaituna, being managed within the CCO, but I would suggest that that is for the convenience of preparing the plan in a timely manner. I don't think that there is wide comfort around the Tauranga City Council table with outsourcing to a CCO the stormwater element at this time. So those discussions are still ongoing.
Thank you, Councillor Morris. Other updates? Nikki?
Kia ora everyone, just an update from Te Tāhuhu o Tawaki Haimua, Ngāti Rangiwahi. So many of you know that there are 3 groups who are taking litigation against the Crown for water rights. And so Ngāti Rangiwahi have joined the Māori Council's litigation processes. So just wanted to make sure everybody was aware of that. And I think at the next formal meeting, I'll also endeavour to bring an update from the strategy group on positions around the Urusuru wastewater treatment plant and the Oho wall. We did talk about it at our last meeting, but I wasn't in attendance and I don't have the minute. So I don't want to preempt that. And then the last thing would be, you all know about the 18,000 litre oil or diesel spill that occurred into the Puaringa catchment a week and a half ago, and clean-up efforts are underway there. And we send our condolences and love to the family of the gentleman that died in that accident. And we are working with iwi and Hapu, working with the transport company, the regional and district council, and the owners of the oil on that spill. So just an update there. Kia ora.
Thank you, Nikki.
Kia ora, my auntie's been giving me the pukana from the right here to have a verbal, something to say. Nō reira, tuatahi moku ake nei, e tautoko ngā, e mihi ki ngā kōrero ko whārikitia. Just making note on all the wonderful kōrero that's been gathered in this room today, and just a big mihi to everyone who's shared kōrero. Well, what do I have to say? Firstly, thank you to the kaiwhakahaere, the work people, and the Maru staff for accepting my tūru here, the alternate for Ngāti Rangiwahi, Te Tāhuhu o Tāweke Heimoa Trust, e mihi nui kia koutou katoa. This is my first sitting here with you guys. My name is Hamona Brown, and from Te Arawa. I whakapapa to most hapu, but I've spent a lot of time in Ngāti Rangiwahi. I've been in Tapuika the last year and a half, nearly 2 years, and working on the Wakatere program that we shared 2024 this time last year, around about this time. And so I'll just give you guys an update on that. We've had a few discrepancies in our $5,000 allocated to us from the Maru. And so we know that Charles and our fire there, we'll sort that out while I'm here. So we'll get that over the line. However, the Wakatere program, Ngā Nia o Te Kaituna, it's going very well. We were successful in our launch of our first waka. Te tauihu o te rangi o tāne, down at the Maketu Kaituna cut down there. And it was received by 200 to 300 people. I think there were a few councillors there. The kaumata kuia from Pouchiri and Ngā Kākano and that district, Hapu. Tamariki from Te Mata High School were there. Te Poke High and collective of rangatai from the district were all involved, and it was a wonderful day. Apparently there wasn't a dry eye left on the banks that day, but we were able to launch our waka that day, and yeah, it was a beautiful day, and it's good to see waka on our awa. I'm sitting here trying to figure out what my role is here, and the way I see it, if you fellas are doing all the hard mahi behind the scenes, however, I'm on the ground with the whānau, and we are and the way I see it, we are the engine. We get in there, we go and do the mahi, we have a presence on our awa, and just to make note of all of this, this kaupapa, this ngānia o te Kaituna, it aligns with the Tuna Action Plan, and Uncle Dean and Auntie Pia, her wishes was that if the awa is healthy, the people are healthy. Also, just to reinforce the Tuna Action Plan, Uncle Dean approached me about the next stages post your guys' rediversion and wetlands project. I'm here to help with the re-engagement of the people back to the awa, and so currently we worked at Makahai with the Waka project, but it's quite a diverse project where we see reconnecting the people to the awa. And what does that look like is really just engaging with the awa, swimming, paddling, but the waka is the vessel that connects us to the awa, and it's a presence, and it's the po on the awa to sort of tautoko our whānau here that we're here today, Tapuika, our whānau from Maketu, to show a practical visual presence on the awa to say that anei te mana whenua, and anei ngā kaitiaki. So just on that note, our team at Ngānia o te Kaituna, the way I see it, we're the engine, and we're going out there to be the Superman of and protect our awa. So kia ora tātou, waiho ki reira, e, che.
Tēnā koe Haimona. Any other updates? Waira. The meeting we're looking at March next year is to be held where? Okay. Can we decide that now? Any objections? Okay, we'll go with that for now. Kia ora team. Aye, marae. And before we close off with karakia, I'd like to thank the two people at my sites for their huge efforts, their agility, and their swiftness when it's required. Thank you very much to you both, Charles, Jenny. You do an excellent job, and I'm very appreciative for the support that you offer. So thank you both. Nā ua noi whakatūwhera e Haimona, mau e whakakapi. Kia koe te rākau.
Tēnā koe. I don't know what to say about this honour of being the karakia man today. However, it could be an ongoing role. Nō reira, ka te aki ki runga. Tukunanga whakaro ana hoki ki te wāhi ngaro, ki a rātou e tiaki nei a tātou. Hoki atu nei ki ngā atua a rātou e whakaarahi a tātou i te rānei. Ki te taia o ngā maunga whakaihi, ngā awa e tere nei, te wai tai ki mui a hau, tauranga moana e kanapara mai ana. Unuhia, ko te pau mua, ko te pau roto, ko te pau hakauru a ngā tiki te tonga. Te manu hārangi he tō waikaro, ko kiri ki te mate, hoki ki te ora. Kimi hia, Whanno, hara mai te toki. Haumi e, hui e,
Tai ki e. Tēnā koe haimana. I declare the meeting closed. Lunch will be provided at the back there. Tēnā tātou.